Hey, welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast. I'm your host, Sal Interdonado. The Black Knight Nation podcast is brought to you by Higher Echelon. Higher Echelon is a company run by Joe Ross. He's a former Army fullback, former Army assistant coach, former Army officer, and we appreciate Joe Ross sponsoring our podcast tonight. We have special guest Cole Talley, former Army kicker. Before we start talking to Cole about everything Army football, we might even talk some TV series going on here. We're going to just check out BlackKnightNation.com. I have a story on. They had their first scrimmage on Saturday, little quarterback story going on there. Check out our YouTube channel, Black Knight Nation. I'm posting shorts on the scrimmages. We had interviews with Casey Larkin up. We have interviews with Ethan Washington, freshman quarterback. We have interviews with safety Larry Pickett. I still have to load up an interview with Brady Small. And Brady Small, we had a good conversation on the new NCAA football game that's out there. Brady's a big fan. He's playing Army any chance he gets before school starts. So we'll talk. That'll be up later. But now we're going to get to our guest, Cole Talley. And you know what, Cole? We've have a specialist feel like the last couple editions in the Black Knight Nation podcast. We had Nick Stragon a couple weeks ago, and now we have you, the kickers and the punters, getting all kinds of respect here. Welcome to the Black Knight Nation podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I have noticed that y'all have been showing a lot of love to the Specs lately. So shout out the Union. I actually wore my I've been wearing my Union shirt to the gym and everything since I've been here. So it doesn't die. You know what I mean?
Did you see that post? I think Coach Chaturnio posted they signed. Everybody in the Union signed a helmet. Was it?
Yeah, a hard hat.
A hard hat, yeah. A hard hat helmet. Yeah.
I think that's so awesome. That's a cool idea that they did that. We gave him a ukulele a few years ago, and then and because he's Hawaiian, right? And he's big into that. And it that's really cool that they gave him that because it's just extremely symbolic of the Union and everything. And I don't know. It's pretty cool that they did that. I wish I could have been a part of that, but you know.
Yeah, yesterday I'm at the scrimmage, and I'm usually waiting to talk to players after a scrimmage. I was taking a shot of the Union and him getting everybody together, and I remember those shots of you, Cole, when you were there, right? And I mean, the only problem is I was so far away myself. The pic was so blurry, I couldn't even post it on Instagram. I'm like, I want to give the Union some, love, but not today.
Well, we're used to not getting much love anyway, so we're all right. We're all right.
Hey man, I'm telling you,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you guys played some pretty special. You had some pretty special moments in your career. You yourself and Quinn Moretsky during your time had some pretty special moments. We'll get into that. First off, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about kicking. To me, I was thinking about this. You couldn't have been a kicker from the start, right? You had to be like a linebacker. You're a football player, right? You couldn't have been a kicker from the start.
Well, in high school, I played slot receiver. It's funny. I actually played slot, and I played Y, and my Z, the wide receiver, was Jackson Smith and Jigba for Seattle right now. So it's safe to say I didn't get the ball very much back then, but it was fun. That was back in the day, in the high school days, And I tried to play a little bit of slot back at prep, but these guys were at a different level than I was, So I was like, maybe kicking is just my forte.
Did you throw a block for Jackson Smith and Jigba? Did you throw a block during the game? I'm guessing you had to, right?
Yeah. We used to. I was a big blocking receiver. Sometimes they would put me in the box, or sometimes they would. Sometimes we'd run fast screens or whatever it may be. And a lot of the times, I think I was kind of like a decoy route runner, so he could get open, but. And I'm not the fastest guy in the world, right? Especially compared to him. He's like a world-class athlete, but he's a great guy. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he's obviously doing pretty well. So,
no doubt, teammates with John Radigan.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I talked to John the other day. I say the other day, it was probably about a month or two ago, but because we just get so caught up in our own lives, and he's so busy, especially right now. But John said he was just messing around with Jackson a little bit about just the whole Rockwall and Texas thing and high school stuff like that. And it's kind of a small world, Two of some of the some of the best guys that I know and coolest guys I've met in my football career ends up on the same team. It's pretty cool.
No doubt. I was just looking at the stats from yesterday. I forget who they played in the preseason, the Seahawks, but John had 5 tackles and a sack. He's getting a shot to play some linebacker, and I know if I have a guy that I work with who's a Seahawks fan, and he loves Radigan. He has a Radigan jersey.
I need to get me one of those. I want to get me one of those.
Yeah, it's the I think it's the blue, with the green numbers maybe or something like that. I'm a Cardinals fan at heart, but I could always root for John Radigan, when he running down trying to,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm the biggest Cowboys fan you've ever met. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that, but I'm the biggest Cowboys fan you've ever met. And, I mean, you got to be, right, growing up in Dallas. But, yeah, I'm absolutely right there with you. Like, if I had a Radigan jersey or Cole Christian jersey or Elijah Riley jersey, but
know that. Cole, we're gonna have to end this podcast right now. You being a Cowboys fan, that's it.
I know. I told you.
We're done. The podcast is over. We didn't get a chance to ask too many questions.
I know. Well, no one cares anymore. You probably lost a lot of viewers already.
They're going up they're going up amazingly going up when you mention Cowboys. The algorithms.
Yeah.
Real quick, guys, if you're watching right now, you have a question for Cole or I, please post it in the questions. We'll get right to them and answer them. So you were playing a little slot receiver, playing a little receiver. How did you start kicking? Were you a soccer player? How did the kicking background start?
Yeah, we actually grew up. So I have 2 older sisters, and we grew up kind of a soccer family. And my dad, he was a big football guy in high school, but he loves football. Like, if there's one person besides all the guys that I played with, especially at Army, but if there's one guy I know that loves football just as much, or if not more than me, it's my father. And he had this belief, and I think he was probably pretty accurate with it too. He had this belief that if I played soccer, it would make me a better football player because it would give me a better vision for the field. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I don't know. I loved soccer. I played it my whole life growing up. I stopped when I was 17, but probably when I committed to go to Army. But I ended up playing football a little bit steadily, and I was always able to kick it, and so I never really took it seriously until about freshman. Did I lose you? I think I may have lost you. Not really sure what to do right now. Did I? I don't know what to do right now.
Yeah, sorry, Cole. I
don't know what to do right now.
I'm glad you stayed on because we're still live, and I got kicked off for some reason. My StreamYard just booted me and said I had no connection whatsoever. And I was
like, hey guys.
You could run point, certainly, Cole.
Yeah.
That was strange. That was very strange. I was kicked off. You were talking about your dad and how he was wanted you to be a soccer player too to help with football, and how you got into football and you started kicking with the strong leg. When do you start getting recruited?
Well, I really just started getting serious about what's up, Mr. Moretsky? Sorry, that's funny. But I really just started taking it serious probably my freshman year of high school. Really only because my head coach at the time, Rodney Webb, he told me he was like, dude, if you go to a coach or go to like a private instructor, you could get really good at this. And so I did, and I started going to these camps to try to get recruited more. And then Army was my first offer, and then I got a few preferred walk-ons, and I really started getting recruited probably heading into my junior football season, because and I thank my mom a lot for that. She worked tirelessly. I mean, she took me to camps after camps after camps after camps, like college camps and all kinds of stuff. I can't even imagine how much money she spent on me just trying to help me like chase this goal that I had. And yeah, it was awesome. And then Army was my first offer, and then I got a few preferred walk-ons from other schools, but I really only took like the Army offer and the Texas Tech off, like preferred walk-on, pretty seriously. And that was only because basically my entire family, anybody that's ever gone to school besides me, went to Texas Tech, and so we were a big Red Raider family. And I always kind of envisioned myself playing there one day, but I definitely made the right decision. It was funny. So Coach Kevin Corliss used to coach linebackers.
Wow.
I can't remember where he's at now. I want to say he's at Samford.
Yeah, maybe.
I think. But he was my recruiting coach. I guess he was in the Dallas area, the Dallas region.
Mm-hmm.
He also recruited Vache Danian as well.
Wow.
And me and Vache played each other in high school all the time too. Which, by the way, if Vache is watching, I'll never let him live it down. We beat him. I scored twice against him, 2 touchdowns against Vache.
Wow.
So, wow. I just think that's hilarious to bring up. But so anyway, Coach Corliss, he kind of sold me on it. He said, Cole, imagine this. 100 years down the line, someone in your family is looking at everybody and where all they went to school, and it would say Texas Tech, Texas Tech, Texas Tech, Texas Tech. And then he said, then there would be a little asterisk by your name, and it would say West Point. And I was like, okay, I'm sold. And
that's a great selling. That's a good pitch.
That's a phenomenal pitch. And whenever I was watching Schrag earlier on y'all's podcast from, I think it was like a month ago, y'all posted it.
Yeah.
Y'all had asked him if there were any good pitches, and I was like, oh, I had a great pitch, recruiting pitch that got me. But yeah, so that definitely sold me. And then I was also, at the time, I was dating this girl whose dad went to the Naval Academy.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But he kind of convinced me of it as well. And he was on the board when I did my initial interview process with the congressman. He was on like the board of, I guess, Service Academy graduates that interviewed me. And it was kind of funny. We weren't dating at the time. And it was I was like, oh, well, I hope he kind of helps me out here. But you know what I mean? I don't know. And I also have an uncle who also went to the Naval Academy, and then another uncle who was in the Air Force and flew in the Air Force. And
wow.
Yeah. So, but no Army. So I'm the first one.
Yeah. I mean, you should have probably went to Texas Tech, Navy or Air Force, who knows? And you pick Army. And so you commit, you sign the certificate of commitment, and then you're off to the Army prep. And, Army prep, I think, is a good year. It's a redshirt year. Let's just say it's a redshirt year, right? And for most, it's a redshirt year for the offense, the guys on offense to learn the offense, and the defense to learn the defense. Mm-hmm. What's it like for a kicker to be at Army prep?
It may be different now. I went kind of at a different time. It was really kind of weird because I'm not exactly sure how the prep school set up now, like if they had done any new like construction or anything. Mm-hmm. But at the time there was the football field, and above was the lacrosse field.
Yeah.
And so obviously and offense and defense would be practicing down on the football field, and we would just head up to the lacrosse field and just kick up there the whole time. And then at the end of practice, they would bring us down, and we would do kind of like a fourth quarter warrior thing, or like we would work on special teams a little bit. And it was kind of weird. I enjoyed it for sure, but we didn't really have a coach, right? Like we had Coach Wolfram at the time, and he was pretty special teams and like inclined, right? But other than that, we didn't really have an individual like Coach Sat, right, who was with us and could help us kind of hone our skills, or like, and there wasn't any of us. It was me and Mateo Cordray, and which his birthday was the other day, by the way. He's another Dallas guy, and it was just us two, and we would just give each other tips and pointers all the time. And I have never been a very good punter, right? And so, like if you ask any of the guys, even Coach Sat would he would laugh at you if you asked him if I could punt. It's pretty bad. But anyway, so Mateo would try to give me tips on that, and it was just cool. I'm kind of jumping all over the place.
No, it's good.
But doing that kind of stuff with like your teammates, like Quinn, for example, and all the other guys, right? Like Quinn, Mateo, Trey Granati, like all these guys, Landon Salyers, learning from each other and picking each other's brains and having that kind of healthy competition was probably the best thing that's ever happened to my football career. Yeah. Right. And kicking is, I feel like, one of the only positions where I feel like that is so like common, I guess you would say. Because other guys are obviously competing with you, and like honestly, at some points it's like you either have it or you don't. But like kicking is one of those things where it's like it has to be constantly tweaked, or not tweaked, constantly. Like it's like a well-oiled machine, right? Like you can't not kick for a week and then, or like 2 weeks or a month, and then expect to just have it when you come back, right? And so when you're constantly tweaking each other, that's how you become better. Like me and Quinn all the time. Like if I would hit a ball that I didn't like very much, I would say, hey, what do you think I did? And he'd be like, I think you pulled your eyes up a little too early, or something random, whatever the issue may have been. Yeah. It was just such a healthy environment to be around as a specialist. And a lot of the credit for that is to Coach Sat, because before it was kind of, it was a lot of, not like animosity, but it was like everybody wanted to be the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course. Right. And like still, even whenever Coach Sat was there, who's not going to want to be the guy?
Yeah.
But it was just a different kind of approach towards it. And everybody was so, I don't want to say like loving, but like we loved each other. Right. And that's Coach Sat says all the time, like accountability is the purest form of love. And who's holding you more accountable than a guy that wants you to do your job? Right.
I was gonna say a lot of respect for you and Quinn, because for you guys, there was competition, right? And you were the guy at one time, and he became the guy, and then you were the kickoff guy, and you each did your jobs to the best. I mean, right? I mean, it was just like, and I'm sure if Coach Sat or Coach Munkin called upon you in either last year or you would be ready. You would be ready to go, ready to kick. And I think that's great. The camaraderie amongst, they call it, sometimes I think that brotherhood's used a lot, right, when it comes to Army football, right? And you can tell us a lot about that, right, Cole? I mean, just about, that's an example right there. That's an example, like within each position group, with each position room, there's that bond that's built. And if you stay and complete and you graduate West Point, it's a bond forever, right? If a guy leaves or a guy stops playing football and maybe does, sprint football, or maybe just does core sports, whatever, you still see him on post, and you're still, that's still bond is strong. But you stick out West Point football for your graduation, and it's something special. I think maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Exactly. And like even down to like what I said earlier, like Mateo ended up not playing football because he had gotten himself hurt a few times, right? And had kind of these like nagging injuries. But I'm like, it was his birthday the other day, and we still talk all the time. And I just got a save the date letter from Brooks Jose the other day, and I missed his call earlier because I was taking my Sunday afternoon nap. But I need to call him back. Brendan Knespel called me, and then Caleb John, me and him have been talking a lot the past few days. I need to call him soon. And it's just, it's a brotherhood that lasts for forever. And it's something I'm really blessed to be able to be a part of. And even like within like the back to the kicking world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Quinn, I can't speak any more highly of Quinn. I love that man. He's one of the best guys I know. He was one of those guys. He's kind of like a silent assassin, right? He kept to himself a lot, unless you're really close to him, but he kept to himself a lot. But when something needed to happen, he said it. He was a man of few words.
Yeah.
And so when he spoke, everybody listened, right? And it's just one of those things that you like learn about everybody as you go through this process of being a young guy in the brotherhood, and then you go to being the older guy, and it's just I can't say it enough. The brotherhood saved me. It really did. If I end up going to Tech, I don't know what would have happened, right? Like I had long hair and a beard, and I was just like I was kind of like just a weirdo. But then I chose to go to Army, and I met the greatest men I've ever met in my entire life. And my dad, whenever he met all my friends, he started tearing up. He was like, I can't believe that you're surrounded by these such great men. And like Cody Winokur, Cody's my best friend, right? And I just got off the phone with him today, and whenever he was doing his thing down in Oklahoma and in Fort Drum and everything like that, whenever he wasn't at West Point for a year or so, whenever he was down in Oklahoma, he would go and stay at my mom's house.
Really?
Yeah, and he would sleep in my room, and then whenever I would go home, he'd mess around with me, and he'd be like, "Hey, you staying in my room?" And I'd be like, "Seriously, buddy?" But it's funny, like it's like the little things like that mean so much more. Like so my family, I'm not really like this. I've never really kind of wanted to be a part of this, but my family's big into like the Greek life and stuff.
Okay.
And they I like the fraternities, sororities, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm a part of the greatest fraternity on earth.
Absolutely.
You know, like these guys, like I don't know where I would be without these men, you know? And it was amazing, an amazing experience.
Was there a time when you were at West Point where you were almost enough, or is that what you're kind of talking about, or is this just in general?
What do you mean enough? Like,
I mean, was there a time where you thought about leaving?
Oh, of course. I mean, I'd be lying if I said that there. You know, everybody thinks about that. I would say though, mine was mostly when I was at prep school, probably because I struggled a lot academically, and even in high school, that's why I went to the prep school to begin with. But I remember the specific conversation I had with one of my older sisters, who was at Tech at the time. I called her and I was like, I think I'm going to leave, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I think I'm going to walk on at Tech and maybe see if they'll still honor that preferred walk on, blah, blah, blah. Really glad I didn't. But she was like, Cole, you have no idea. She kind of knocked some sense into me. She was like, look at the people that you surround yourself with now versus who you would surround yourself with here. Mm. Not that they're like losers or something by any sense, but she was like, just compare the two. And I was like, okay, you're right. I'm going to give it a shot. And then it's funny. I was never able to put like a picture in my head of me graduating West Point until graduation week.
Wow.
Okay. And which is so weird, and sometimes it still doesn't really feel like I even graduated. I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels like that, but it was bar none the hardest thing I've ever done, but absolutely worth it. And I remember plebe year after prep, I'm sitting in the team room, the A room with it was Sam Barzak, Pat Sesniak, Chris Frey, and Cody Winokur, and I think Alex Faulkner was there too. A lot of names right there. But we were just sitting there, and we kind of all came together and decided we were like, we're going to graduate. We were going to graduate, and so it was pretty motivating to say the least.
Yeah, Steve Anderson, who's our co-host here on the Black Knight Nation podcast, he talks about them making a pack in prep school, his group making a pack in prep school, saying, we're going to get this done. We're going to try to change Army football. And they were able to have the first winning season since 1996 in 2010. So, I mean, you do get, and that's how you get through it, right? It's a grind. That's how you get through it. Yeah. I would never even attempt to even apply to West Point. You know, back in the day, I was not West Point material whatsoever, was not even 1 ounce of athleticism to get into West Point either.
Oh,
But I mean,
cut some slacks out. Come on.
no. But you know, I used to cover high school wrestling a lot, right? And when I was in high school, I said, man, who would wear that singlet? Who would go out on that mat? But then you get to know these kids when you write about them, and you get like, there's so much. They're the most dedicated athletes, I think, that I know, pretty much, the high school wrestlers and what it takes. And same with getting through being a cadet athlete at West Point. It is not easy. It's a lot different. It's especially now, right, Cole, with the NILs and stuff like that. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even want to. It's it.
I'll say this about the NIL stuff. This is totally off topic, but this is my personal opinion, and it'll be interesting to see how Army kind of responds to this. But I will say, or responds to how the program responds to the whole NIL thing, and like in terms of like trying to compete with everybody else. I really have no idea what they would do, but I still don't think it'll be that hard to recruit for Army. Anyway, I will say it's cool that they made a video game and everything like that.
Yeah.
And of course, I was playing football there for almost a decade, and then the year that I leave, that's when they make the video game. Anyway, but I will say I'm glad I'm getting out whenever, like not playing college football now. That may be a hot take. But I feel like I kind of got out at the right time, because I think college football is changing into more of like an NFL aspect, whereas 2 years ago, before NIL, it was very like, this is my school and these are my brothers, and like West Point will always be like that. These are our brothers, because nobody transfers into West Point, like you just can't, right? And so West Point and the other service academies, the ones that don't matter, they'll always kind of be like that. But just the atmosphere of college football is definitely changing. And I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I look at right now, right? Army starting off their first season in the American Athletic Conference. I don't know how you feel. The independent.
I think that's kind of exciting. I think it's exciting. I don't know, but
I like the freedom to make your own schedule, so you can go play at the Michigans, the Ohio States, not play them, spread them out a little bit. You play the Oklahomas, right? And the Wisconsins. Now you pretty much have 8 conference games, right? And you have basically, you're going to play Navy and Air Force, and you're going to play your one FCS. So you have one game now a year where you got to figure out what you're going to play. You're going to play a Power 4 or whatever they're calling them now. Are you going to play a team from another conference, say Coastal Carolina or a Troy or something like that, who are pretty good teams these days, pretty good programs. Right. And I don't know. I mean, I was shocked, to be honest with you. We're talking to Brady Small yesterday about the video game and stuff, because when I played it back, 2014, I think was the last time it was out, you had number 4 on Army. You had number 12. You had number 95 at Army. You didn't have Cole Talley, right? You didn't have Cole Talley, So I was surprised they actually were allowed to use the names, because I thought if your name was used, you would have to get some kickback from it. Maybe, I don't know, right?
Yeah. But I do remember this was like back in the spring before I graduated. They made them sign some kind of form, because service academy guys can't be getting paid for that, right? I think it was some kind of form saying, like, I may be totally wrong, so don't set this in stone. But I think it was a form that they signed where it was like, we don't have to get paid. We just want our name in there.
Yeah. Well, but others are, right? And it's just like, I don't know. Like, what can you throw? Like can you throw a service academy player a couple? What? I don't know. It's just
I don't see the harm in it, but
I don't either. But I mean, it is what it is.
Above my pay grade. So, but back to the American thing, I will say I think it's exciting. I stand by that. However, you are right. I really enjoyed my career, because we played like the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows. Like,
good point.
That sounds kind of crude to those other schools, but like granted, we played Michigan, and we played Mizzou, and we played all these other teams in Wisconsin, and we also played Delaware State, right? And so it was like I think some of the stats were like, in the past 5 years we've played more Power 5 teams than both the other service academies combined.
Have to be, because they're in conferences. They're only getting one, maybe two
Right.
a year tops. And, like last year, right, you have Boston College, you playing Wake Forest, those type of teams. And, it's schedules can be, the person who's in charge of schedule tries to spread the games out, tries to spread the schedules out. But last year's schedule was, had some pretty tough opponents on it. And, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, so now I remember Oklahoma during COVID year, right? Your part of this was going to come to Mikey Stadium, then COVID hits. And now I don't even know if that game's going to be played before, I don't know, like 2035 or 2040, somewhere down the line, maybe. Who knows?
I remember that happening, and it was the atmosphere. Obviously, the whole college football realm was just kind of weird at the time.
Yeah,
things were weird, and especially West Point was weird. But I remember whenever they backed out of that, and we were all kind of chuckling to ourselves because we had a great season that year, and we thought we were going to do pretty well, and so we thought it was funny that they backed out. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
But
go ahead, Cole. Go ahead.
You catch my drift, though, right? Like,
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought.
Yeah, then BYU was scheduled, and BYU doesn't come. I mean, maybe they had too many back then. You had tests for COVID, and if you had too many players, you couldn't play or whatever and stuff. I don't know. You've been through some. Wow. I mean, the span of your Army career, you were through some things. So
yeah, that was the weirdest time. COVID was the weirdest, but probably and it sucked at the time. But looking back, that was I would say one of the most fun years at West Point. Granted, we were all stuck there and kind of miserable at the time, but we were all together, and it was just us. And especially that summer before the season started, such a weird. Mr. Moretsky, he gets it.
Yeah, he's on top of things. Yeah,
yeah. But that summer was so weird, and we were all like sleeping in different places. Like I was sleeping in the hockey arena, and just like it was so weird. But
they had you spread out, right? They had you guys spread out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was that called? Social distancing.
Yeah.
And it was, and like the certain position groups were like the Union. We were in the women's lacrosse locker room, and it's like we're the only ones at West Point. We're the only ones here, and so it was it was a really cool time, just because the only thing. We had no other option besides bond.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, true. That's got to be one of the strongest teams, I would think, like as a Connect that year had to be, right?
Yeah. And I would think that played a major part in our success that year for sure.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even get to play in that season either because I had a pending honor board at the time.
I gotcha.
Yeah. And so it was so weird, but it was a great time,
I like almost apocalyptic. I can't even say the word. This Sunday night. No, apocalypse. Like almost an apocalypse, right? I mean, to a point where you have this big post, and you guys are the only people on post, and like you. 1 minute it's the ice rink, next minute it's the women's lacrosse locker room. Who knows? You're moving all around and stuff. You're being tested probably. Not a couple times a day. I'm guessing you're being tested like a couple times a week, probably, and that going back to then and stuff. I mean, and now you look at it and it's like, I don't know. I covering that and watching it from my couch, because I don't think I went to one game that year. They could have media there. Truth be told, I was still working at the newspaper, so I don't know if I wasn't technically a beat writer at that point. And I was watching the games from home, and that was but you guys won 9 games there, and
Air Force and Navy at home. That was
back to back.
Oh yeah, that was incredible.
Back to back. You'll never see that again. See that again.
And 4th and Kobe and everything. Jacoby running it in. That was.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the things I wish I was there for. I wish I was there for those moments, because those are like the 2016 game when the streak's broken. That's never going to happen again. Beating Air Force after beating Navy the week before, that will never happen again. So, those experiences are just really unique. And, part of covering the Army program, part of playing for Army, you get those type of things. And I don't know if you're going to get those. You probably will, but let's see what they do in the first season of the American Athletic. Everybody thinks that Army's got a pretty reasonable schedule.
Yeah.
Some Army fans want them to run the table and play for the conference championship in the American. Let's see. We'll see what happens. A lot of the guys on the team still, of course, from last year being your last year. And I mean, it's a new start. Every team's different, right? And we'll see what happens starting on August 30th. Real quick, your first year at West Point, right? Mm-hmm. What are your fondest or what do you remember the most about your first year at West Point on the field, I guess?
Yeah. Well, so I'll give you two answers. I'll give you one for plebe year, and then I'll give you one for prep school also. Mm-hmm. So okay. Prep school was – so I'm from Texas, right? I've never played football in the snow, never. But we played Navy in the snow that year, and luckily during the game it had stopped. But there was snow all over the place, and it was just mountains of snow around the field, and it was such a cool little atmosphere, right? And we ended up beating them, and we won the. I think prep calls that the CIC also.
Yeah, the prep CIC. Yeah.
Right, but so we ended up winning that, and it was a really cool moment, and then plebe year, I would argue the most fun part was fall camp. And like I was gonna try to venture out and say something non-football related, like maybe spring break or something, because we all got a house together and we were just chilling at the beach and just having a good time. But really, fall camp was one of my favorite experiences freshman year, because you had just gotten out of Beast and you're just exhausted. Your feet are all torn up. You've lost some weight and you're just so tired. But now it's just you and all the boys. You're meeting a bunch of new guys that are going to be friends for life.
Yeah.
It's all you have to do is focus on football. You don't have to worry about anything else in the world. It's the best time of the year, and I don't know. It was really cool. And I will say too, I think another time of the year that really competes for fall camp is the summertime right before fall camp, because all you're doing is you're just going to class in the mornings, hanging out. The whole football team's living in one spot, and then all you do is just work out together. And on the weekends, you hang out, go fishing, do whatever you want to do, and it's just such a cool time. And the Hudson Valley in the summer is gorgeous.
Yeah. Like it's underrated. It's underrated. That's a good pitch. That could be a good recruiting pitch if like you weren't West Point, if it wasn't West Point and you're trying to bring somebody in from,
wherever.
Anywhere USA, you could. That's a good pitch. I just looked this up. So the second game of your career is Michigan.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
That's crazy, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
You win the kicking job out of camp as a freshman, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
I mean, that's got to be just. You're talking about all this stuff about working, getting to that fall camp, your first fall camp, and then you earn the kicking job as a plebe. And then I guess you guys. It was a Rice home game, right? You guys played Rice at home.
That was a very. I almost forgot about that one. Thank you for bringing that up. That was also one of the coolest experiences my freshman year too, because it was a night game. It was a Friday night game. I'll never forget it. And they got Bad Company playing on the loudspeakers. The stadium is packed. It's a night game. You got the Blackhawks flying over, and I'm running out of the tunnel, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing I've ever done in my entire life, and I'm never going to do anything cooler than that. And I still remember that to this day. And we played Rice and beat them. I think it was 7-0.
It was close. It was a close game. I think I just 14-7 maybe, if I remember. 14-7.
Yeah, maybe a one-score game. But that was a great experience too. And like looking at the Corps cadets just going nuts on a Friday night, and then what's funny about that is like you're a plebe after. And so I'm like, I just played my first college football game. Like, this is the coolest thing ever. I guess I got to go do homework now.
Yeah, right.
I walked back to my room and I did homework that night.
Oh my God! Yeah, you kicked your first college extra point probably, and that was
Yeah.
back to do
Yeah.
I don't know, probably some math work. Who knows, right?
Oh yeah, it's funny, but that was a great time too. But yeah, then Michigan the week after that, and
That's crazy. Like to be now in high school, right? Go back to high school real quick. Are you playing in these Texas games that we hear where there's like 5,000 fans or thousands of fans, or is that what you're doing there or no?
yeah. So when I was in high school, I went to Rockwall High School. It's like 45 minutes east of Dallas, and we were we were the highest. I don't know what they
Classification, yeah,
right. Yeah, we were 6A,
yeah.
right, and just because our student body was bigger, and so we were in the same classification as like Allen and like those big teams. Like Kyler Murray went to Allen,
Yeah.
whatever, and so. Yeah, we played in some pretty high caliber games. Like I got to play in Cowboy Stadium a few times. I got to play in the Cotton Bowl a few times, which is pretty cool. Our rival game, like our rival, is they're called Heath, right? And so it was the biggest game of my entire life at the time, right? And which funny story, my head coach from high school now coaches there. And it's kind of like it's like a very small town feel,
Oh
right?
boy, yeah, oh boy, yeah.
But so yeah, I think I am of course biased, but like that rivalry between those two teams, I would argue is probably like top 10 in the state, and because they're both bigger schools, they're right next to each other, and I think I may be wrong, but I think we pulled in like 15,000 10 to 15,000 fans at that game. I may be wrong, but yeah, it's pretty intense stuff. And I've got like pictures of, I'm sure I could find something on like my Facebook or whatever of like us playing or doing the coin toss or whatever. And the crowd's just packed, and it's
That's
pretty cool deal. But yeah. And so that, it was kind of a shell shock going from like big atmospheres like that to the prep school, where I was just like, oh, this is nothing, right? But
100 people show up for your game. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. But and then things like, then I'll play even the Rice game, right? I was like, high school's nothing to this, you know. It's it was, college football was an amazing experience, and I'm the luckiest guy on earth to even be able to do it, especially for the team that I played for, right? Like the best. I think that was. I can't speak any more highly of the brotherhood than, it was the best thing I've ever done. I have no words, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at that. Like, I can't even imagine. Just real quick, I don't want to harp on it too much, but just going as a plebe, going into the big house, and as your second college game, your first road game, and playing in front of 100. That no matter how many, if you played in front of 15,000, 20,000 in high school, that is an atmosphere that you can't, like. That's something that that's something you can say.
Yeah.
You can tell your kids. You can tell that's something that not a lot of people can say they do if you're outside the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And,
well, I'll tell you what. I think they probably did it at this specific time to try to get in my head a little bit, because it was right before I was about to try to kick, and then we ended up going to overtime. And I think there was 4 seconds left on the clock or something like that. And I'm fixing to head out there to kick, and they made an announcement that said, everybody, we want you to know that this stadium, the capacity is 110,000, but today we've carried 111,000. And so it was kind of funny, and that it was just big on the screen. That's one of the things that I remember. And then another thing I remember too, after they said that, I looked around, and it was like such a deafening loud noise, but I couldn't recognize any faces at all. I was just like, it's just a blob.
Wow.
Right. And I was like, so if there's 111,000 people here, how many other people at the stadium can make this kick besides maybe their kicker?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I'm the only one that even has a shot right now. And so it was kind of, I don't know. Maybe I was trying to talk myself up, being a young kid, right? I was only 20 at the time, but
I don't know. I don't know, man. I look
It
at
was a cool experience for sure.
Yeah, I look at just kickers in general, like a clutch. I mean, you have to be clutch 100% of the time. Like, an offensive lineman can miss an assignment, right? A running back cannot miss a hole. A defensive player can miss a tackle. You guys have to be, pretty much sharp all the time. And to go
Yeah.
into an environment like that. And
Mhm.
I know, like, I don't know if it was you that would describe like kicking as like playing golf. Was that you or no?
That's right. Yeah. I think it's
Yeah, I mean, the swing, the kick, the leg kick, and stuff like that, and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I give you guys a ton of credit. Like I said, I give you and Quinn and all the kickers, and you
yeah.
got guys like that pass through Army. Like, some haven't had the success that you guys have, but there's a reason for that. It's not easy. It's not easy. So,
Well, thank you, Sal. I appreciate that. You know what that reminds me of too is
Mhm.
there was a lot of pressure, right? And like I remember we played Wisconsin and I had like missed a field goal or something, and people would tweet at me all the time and like just say nonsense, right? Which I thought was funny at the time. I still think it's pretty funny.
Are these Army fans or no?
Sometimes they were. Sometimes they were just people that put money on the game or whatever. But I don't know. I thought it's just pretty funny looking back at that, and I'm like, come on, guys. And then like even I was dating a girl a while back, and one guy was like messaging her and was just like, "Your boyfriend sucks." And I'm like, that is so like I just think that is hilarious. I don't know, and I'm sure. I'm definitely not the only one that has gotten any responses like that, but I think that's pretty funny too. Now that you bring that up,
I don't know. Like I said, the offensive lineman's not getting those messages. The wide receivers probably not. Well, wide receivers maybe. Who knows with the way betting goes these days and stuff like that. But so when we had your pals with Shrag, right?
Yeah. I actually whenever I went up to the camp to try to get recruited a little bit more by Army, I hadn't gotten an offer yet, but I went up there and he was helping run the camp, right? And so we ended up kicking together for a little bit. But then when I went to the prep school, I think was his senior year, and so we kind of just missed each other. We'd met before, but yeah, we know each other, but we're not like we're never on the same team, So.
Yeah, because I was saying that he had a little bit of a redemption story. His redemption story is a little bit different, but you think you had a chance? You think you had your little redemption story at Army or no?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, the Mizzou game was definitely it was an experience I'll never forget, and it was cool too because it was in Fort Worth, and so I had a bunch of like my old high school coach was there. I had multiple coaches there, and like all my hometown friends were there, my family. It was really cool, and I had actually kicked on that field before, like. When I told you earlier, my mom had taken me to all these college camps and stuff.
Yeah.
I had gone to a TCU camp, and so I've kicked in that stadium before then too, and it was kind of it was definitely a cool experience, and that's something I'll never forget. But I'll tell you what, a lot of people asked like after the season asked me if that was my favorite game I ever played in, and I said absolutely not. My favorite game I ever played in was this past year whenever we beat Air Force. That was the best game I've ever played in my entire life because it was no one expected us to win. Nobody did. And then we did, and it was just an ultimate team win. And it was so gratifying, especially because, I mean, like that rivalry is just so huge, right? And
yeah, it's heated too.
Some capacities, it almost feels like that rivalry is a little bit bigger than Navy, just for the players maybe. But it's just that rivalry runs deep, and for them to have such success before us, and then they meet us, and their season just kind of goes like that.
Yeah,
it was an extremely, maybe it sounds childish of me, but it was an extremely gratifying feeling, right?
I can imagine because that they're a ranked team, they're undefeated coming in. I hate when now I'm a reporter, so I did it all the time where Army hasn't beat a ranked opponent since this long, and it was Air Force in 1972 and this and that. And for you guys to do what you did, and you're right, you sent them into a tailspin, and that was a rocket up for you guys. That was a rocket up to finish the season. You know, you don't beat Air Force, you don't have a chance to play for the Commander in Chief's trophy against Navy, right?
Right.
So I mean, everything was on the line for you guys. I think that's underestimating the rivalries too. You know, the better team, whatever. Those service academy games are so crucial. They're like playing like a couple Super Bowls. You know, I mean, with I can't imagine like, you know, even like every player on the team, you know, going out there and wanting to do, you know, defense talks about doing their 111th, right? And I'm sure your special teams guys just want to do your job, right? Just do your job. Like in that game, you're probably okay. Every time I just want to kick it out of the stadium so they can't return it. Right? I mean,
yeah. And I was getting so like, I look at myself when I put I'll go through pictures every now and then just to kind of live in the glory days a little bit. And I was a psychopath. When I would get on the field, like I was psychotic. I remember, like I would get so fired up. And if it was only a touchback, I would get so fired up. And I remember, I'll never forget this. It was the Boston College game, and it was right before we used to do crazy stuff in the locker room. Like I don't remember exactly how. But it's like I'm not a big guy by any means, and like my locker was right next to these massive individuals. Like I was right next to Simon Dellinger, and I'm like running into all these people. Like we're just getting so fired up, and I like slice my hand on something,
really,
and it starts bleeding, and I'm like in this different mode that I rubbed it on my face, and like there's blood all down my face, and I'm like a creature, like a scary animal, and I look back at that, and I'm like, what am I doing? And I go and I kick the opening kickoff with blood all over my face, and I go to grab my kicking tee, and I haven't even told like my parents this, but like the guys know, and the ref looks at me and he goes, "You need to get that off your face, or you're not coming back on my field." And I said, "Yes, sir, you got it." And I sprinted over, and the trainers cleaned off my hand, and I was like, "My blood's clean, like I'm fine." And they were like, "Yeah, but whatever you sliced it on is not." And I was like, that's a good point. So I don't know. It was just looking back at little things like that. I was like, oh, we used to get psychotic. Like I remember one time we were so fired up. It was, I can't remember what game it was, but Sam Barzak took a trash can and threw it like projectile across the locker room, and it just slammed, and we're going insane. Like people are taking their helmets and slamming them against lockers, and we ended up winning that game. But it was just like and back to like my relationship with my dad. He's one of the biggest football guys ever, and I just wish that people like him or like people, I just wish somebody else could experience that feeling of adrenaline and that feeling of just excitement. And it's like, these are my brothers and we're about to just go to battle. And it's the coolest thing ever.
The coach that you guys play for is pretty fired up guy too. You know, I'm going to fight, you know, those locker rooms after the wins and stuff like that. I mean, you know, you get that nowhere else in college football.
Yeah. And I mean, like I took a video of it after we beat Air Force of us doing the I will fight thing, and God, that's the coolest. I'll watch it every now and then just to get my blood pumping, like maybe before a workout or something.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I was gonna ask you, like, I wanted to ask you this way before, and the two things. So you're all fired up before the games, right? Are you have something in your earbuds or anything like that? Like that's heavy metal, or what? Are you more?
Well, so I guess when I was like my freshman year, I kind of tried to like stay calm, and I would listen to maybe like country music or whatever. And then like as I got older and I kind of started to like know myself a little bit better and like what I performed better at, I would listen to like heavy rock music. I mean, I'm talking like sometimes it would be old school stuff. Other times it would be like I would never want to listen to that just regularly now. You know, it's like stuff that like it's borderline scary. And I would just try to get myself so amped up, you know, and like sometimes because you're already nervous before the game and you already have those jitters. And so it's like, you may as well just get into like a different mode, right?
Yeah.
And kind of turn it into like a almost robotic. And like, for me, obviously, I think I would say like Quinn, for example, probably did not listen to that kind of music. Right. But that's just his personality, and like even down to like the little things, like, I think I would just try to turn myself into like this completely different human being. Like, there's a picture of me after like a kick against Navy, and I'm just like I look like I belong in a jail cell. I'm like screaming, so like it's crazy. I don't know, but it just worked for me, and I guess everybody's got to find their, and I liked it, and I'm that's going to be one of the things that I miss, in terms of like my career and everything. Just going crazy with the fellas right before the game.
I want to ask you about the weight room, because I know that you were in groups with offensive linemen, or is that true or false?
That's true. Sometimes I would be with O linemen or D linemen, or sometimes tight ends and stuff. I never really worked with Coach Hughes. Has like a reasoning behind it, and he's obviously way smarter than me in any of that realm, right? Yeah. But he always put the union and the specialists. Sometimes he would put us with the skill groups to work on certain exercises, and sometimes he would put us with the big guys and the combos. But I don't know the exact reasoning behind that. Maybe it was to be more explosive or random things like that. But yeah. So whenever we would lift, I would always be with. I remember my favorite squat rack. I was partners with Lucas Scott, and it was whenever he was a freshman, and he kind of kicked me in gear a little bit, because at the time, I think I was 23, and he was 18, 17.
He was right out of high school. Yeah, right.
Yeah, so he's he's like the Energizer Bunny, and he's obviously throwing up like a brick house on bench, and I'm just like, okay, I got to keep up with him somehow, So, but he was really motivating too, and the weight room is it's a different. I'll say this, and I know this is a fact. I don't care. Anybody in the world can say that I'm biased, whatever. It doesn't matter. We have the greatest weight room atmosphere in America. There's nobody that has it better. Yeah. And that is because of Coach Hughes.
Yeah, he's done an excellent job there. I mean, just you talk to him for like a second, you're going to get, there's motivation there right away. And man, I look at the videos sometimes that they put up on the socials and stuff like that. You own any kicking? Do they have lifting records in the Army weight room for the football?
I don't know. That would be interesting if we did. I don't know if we keep track of that. Coach Hughes probably knows all that information, but hopefully I have something.
Cole, I'll have to inquire on it. I have to inquire. Now, once you're, so you finish your career as you win the part of the Commander-in-Chief Trophy champions. You got to go to the White House, correct?
We did, which was awesome.
Yeah, what's something like that like for people like me that will never be able to do that?
Well, it was it was just such a cool experience, and it was nice because it was during the spring, and kind of it was at that moment where everybody's like, okay, we're fixing to leave, we're fixing to move to a different area, we got to start packing up our stuff and moving out and focusing on our grades. And so kind of the senior class kind of slowly started splitting up, and then whenever we all came back together in Washington, D.C., and it was a great time. It was like our first little reunion, I guess you could say. But it was so cool. And I mean, who gets to do that? Like, I was standing 2 feet away from the President of the United States.
Yeah.
Right? And it was a really cool experience. I will say, wearing that uniform, I'm so glad I never have to wear that again. That thing is hot. And a lot of the places that we were at, there wasn't like AC and stuff. And I was just like, oh, I'm burning up in this thing. But we had a great time. And the night before, there were like 8 or 9 of us that all went and got a steak dinner. And we ate at this really nice restaurant. I can't remember exactly what it was called, but it was in downtown DC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was just a cool experience, and we all got to kind of empty our bank accounts at that restaurant, but It was worth it.
Right?
The food was good. Food was good, and it was a great experience.
Yeah, I only been to DC once for a wedding, and it was a bit downtown, and it was a pretty,
Yeah.
it was pretty nice. It was pretty
Yeah.
nice.
Well, I go down to that area kind of a lot, like the DC, Baltimore, Annapolis area a lot,
Yeah,
because that's where Cody's from, Cody Winokur.
yeah,
And so I'd go down there and visit them all the time. And I get my tattoos down there too. Cody kind of showed me this girl because you know how he's all
yeah.
over his body. But yeah, so I go down there quite a lot.
Wanted to ask you real quick. You had the you did the pro day, right? And I did a story on you off the pro day. Anything ever come about that, or have you like put that? Is that aside now? You're kind of focusing on your military stuff, or
Yeah, I mean, I it was a great opportunity, and it was really fun. I had a great time doing it. Uh, and Coach Munkin had mentioned to me, he was like, "I'm going to try to get you a few like training sessions with XYZ," and I was just like, "Oh,
yeah,
cool," like. But I told him to. I was like, "If nothing comes about it, don't even worry about it," because like I had a great football career and I love the game, but I committed here because I wanted to be in the Army, and I kind of gave up any aspirations of going to the NFL whenever I committed, and then it became an opportunity again, and I was like, I would be an idiot to not try this,
yeah,
right? To not at least give it a shot. And like I think like deep down, I'm like I think I can't have the ability to do this, but I was like, if it doesn't work out, I've already got something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm so motivated on what's next in the future for my Army career and everything, and I'm really just excited to get that kicked off because that's something I've wanted to do for a long time. And
nice.
football was great, but nothing will ever beat playing for the Brotherhood,
Yeah, absolutely. So what's up with you now? Where are you in your Army career, so to speak?
Yeah, so I'm at Fort Moore, Georgia right now. I am waiting to go through IBOLC, which I started IBOLC in November, and because of the pro day stuff, if you just signed up for that, they automatically slotted you in November, which kind of sucks that I got to wait around for that long.
Yeah.
But I'm going to keep bothering them to see if I can do some extra schools, like whether it be like air assault or like these random Army schools that I want to try. I'm going to be the most annoying person in the office, going to keep asking them for that until November. Because, I mean, I've got time to kill, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I don't mind. I figured now all I do is show up in the morning at 6 o'clock for PT, and then I work out, and then I got the rest of the day to myself. And so it's just more time for me to prepare in order to do really well. And I started this Bible study too.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's something that I'm just like really passionate about, and I'm excited to get started with that. And yeah, so we'll see where that kind of goes, because I figured it like I said, it's something I'm really passionate about, and I was like, I've wanted to do it for a while, and if I don't do it now, then when am I going to do it? I've got the most time on my hands in the world. So
yeah. What's that involved? What does that detail?
Well, so I stole it from Army football, but I called it the Black Flag Fellowship, and I'm making it like a men's focused Bible study group. Really, because I think the world now is just so hectic, right? And I think few and far between you can find a godly man out there. And in my personal goals in life, Coach Sat actually had us write a mission statement one time, and it still resonates with me today. The only thing in the world I want to do is be the best father and husband that I possibly can, right? And that's all I care about one day. And it'll be funny. I say that, and one day my kids are going to look me up on YouTube and just see me being like an idiot or something like that. But I just want to be the best father and husband I can, and I know the answer to that is through building a relationship with Christ. And I figured if I can get a bunch of motivated young men who want to do the same, then the sky's the limit, right? And so I there's this quote out there by R. Kent Hughes, and he said, "The church in America needs real men, and we are the men." And so I was motivated by that, and I think I just really think this is something important, especially for our age, like 18 to 30 kind of age range, because I feel like we are one of the most influential age groups in America right now, especially with now social media and everything. And I think it's just so important to get that message out there and to be a strong man of faith. And I don't know, I'm excited. I'm going to try and host the first one on Wednesday. I'm just going to have people over at the house.
Okay.
And I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm excited.
Are these just anybody, or are these like are these soldiers, or are these just anybody from the community?
Yeah, I was really thinking just like, of course it would be like men, right? But anybody from the community doesn't have, like, you can. I'm just like, I really wanted people from like all different kinds of backgrounds, like guys that are married, guys that have kids. Because I'm single, I don't have any kids, right? And like I don't know what that's like, right? And so I think that it would be good to get some guys there that have that point of view, and then maybe like this week, for example, I was thinking of doing like our first little study session on King David, right? Like the only one in the Bible who said he was a man after God's own heart, and I think that that's a really important message, and I think we should all strive to be like that. And obviously, David was not perfect in the slightest, but he was a man after God's own heart, and I think he would be a really good person to study because, of course, as a Christian, everybody wants to be like Jesus, right? But it's impossible because he was perfect, you know. And so King David, I think, is a more attainable goal. And I just think, I think the more diverse the group is, what life experience, whatever, I think the further we can grow, right?
Yeah, no doubt. A couple quick ones before we let you go. I just wanted to ask you about, this season coming up, the kicking game, with the graduation of yourself and Quinn. It's kind of been a wide open competition to a point, for who's going to be the next Army kicker. And I was thinking to myself, there hasn't been a kicker other than you or Quinn since 2018.
Yes. Pretty much. It's crazy. I didn't even think about that.
Like 2019 you, and then from there on, pretty much Quinn and yourself. And so, I mean, it's been a while. We'll just get to this comment by Mark Moretsky saying, "You're a great leader of men, Cole. Good luck." So
thank you, Mr. Moretsky. I appreciate that.
He's behind you. So, first kicker not named Cole Talley or Quinn Moretsky since 2018 is going to be needed up for Army, right? Mm-hmm. And so Trey Granati a little bit, a lot. You worked with him the last few years. What do you think about the kickers that Army has, and what do you think we could look forward to this season? It's a loaded question.
I think they're going to do great. I don't think people really kind of grasp how close really the kicking game has been between like everybody on the roster on the depth chart, because we have some kickers that are phenomenal. I think Coach Satt has said this before. He said, I think our room, just the specialist room in general, is the most well-rounded and talented specialist unit in the country, because I mean, we don't have these super stud all-star Justin Tucker types with a high school caliber guy. All of us are very similar, and we're really talented, And so I think these guys are going to step up, and they're going to do really well. And I'm excited to see what the Union does this year. And I've heard from the guys. I'm obviously not at camp anymore, but I've like called Cody at times, and I've called some of the other guys, and have just seen what they thought. And they said a lot of the specialists are really stepping up and becoming vocal leaders on the team, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And I actually was told that too by Coach Riedel, one of the strength coaches. And so it's really cool hearing that from a coach that's not even Coach Satt, right? And so I'm excited to see where they go. They're a talented group of guys, so we'll see what happens.
They got we got Trey Granati, we got Anderson Britton, we have a couple plebes in there. Dawson Jones got to kick a little bit yesterday. We'll see what happens. I mean, first scrimmage in the books, and Who knows?
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch that. How did that go, by the way, or pay attention to it?
The scrimmage itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first one. I got there a little late because I had to get my little West Point pass, and I had to wait. And I don't even want to get into that. Cole. That's out for we won't. But I mean, I saw like say 75% of the. They had 2 kicks blocked.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, when you're going with Coach said, when you're going with the little younger guys blocking 2 that don't really know the schemes, that's going to happen. So, he likes
typically the first scrimmage is a little dusting off the rust, but
yeah, I wrote on my phone. I think I wrote on my phone, maybe Britain made like a 37-yard field goal, and it was a little bit rough there. But I mean, like you say, maybe more than I do. That first scrimmage, they have a couple more times to see who could separate, and it'll be interesting as far as the team. I mean, they didn't tackle to the ground, so it's really hard to figure out. And Bryson Daly didn't play, and Dwayne Coleman didn't play. So the quarterbacks, they had 4 quarterbacks, and 2 were freshmen. So I'll tell you, watch Ethan Washington this year. I know Bryson's going to take the bulk of the snaps at quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to happen. Freshman Ethan Washington, he reminds me a lot of Christian Anderson.
Really?
I'm not going to say he can throw the ball like Christian Anderson, but when they run the counter from the shotgun, the quarterback run, he can do that pretty well, and he's got good vision for a quarterback. I mean, this is the first time I've seen him. Like I said, they're not tackling to the ground. Is he going up against the 1s or 2s? No, but there's something there. He's about 6'1", like 190-ish, I think, somewhere around there. A little bit taller than some Army quarterbacks, and he's a guy I think for Army fans to really keep an eye on. And we'll see. 2 things real quick. Seeing Cody, your best bud there, Cody Winokur, get the captain of the Army team, right? And we know what he's been through, where he had to leave West Point and prove himself and come back, and now they get that captainship. I wanted to get your thoughts on that, and also Connor Finucane also getting granted a 5th year, and he's not ready to play yet. He's got to get into a little bit of football shape because he was down. He was down at Beast, like doing some, doing things so he can graduate West Point. He was doing the physical fitness tests. He was doing air assault, school, get his air assault wings. And so, what do you think about those 2 thoughts? Those three.
Well, Cody's the greatest man I know, truly. And I don't say that lightly. He really is. He's a natural born leader. I can't talk highly enough about him. He earned everything he's gotten. And he recognizes he dug himself a bit of a hole a few years ago, and then took it on the chin and made the best outcome that could happen, right? And he did exactly it, as cheesy as it sounds. He did exactly what Coach Monken said. The only things that you can control are your attitude and your effort, and that's all he did. And he went there and he grabbed it by the reins and kind of took control of his own destiny throughout that whole thing, and came back, steadily earned his way back into the fold of the brotherhood, and he's really made a name for himself, and I think he's earned every ounce of it, and I love that man to death. I would do anything for him, and I think he's earned every second of it. And I'm excited to see where he's going to go. I wish we could have had our senior year together, but stuff happens. But Nuke is a fighter. Nuke's a fighter, and we all know that. And I love that guy too. I texted him today, and I was just checking in on him, seeing how everything's going, being back at football. And he said everything's all good, and so he knows he's got to put on that weight back again. But he's loving every second of it, and so I know I have confidence that he'll be just fine.
Two guys
got to get that weight back, but he looks like a skinny guy right now, but.
Coach Monken says he's at the weight he came in as a true freshman out of high school.
That is crazy.
So, I mean, he's listed at 315 on the roster. Now, guys, come on, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Well, and whenever he was at home, he would always send us selfies. I guess he was working at like a ranch or something, and he had his little Fu Manchu kind of mustache going
Oh, yeah.
on. He was kind of a cowboy when he went home, so he's getting lean like those guys down there, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I asked Coach Munkin joking around at the press media opportunity yesterday. I'm like, he's got to start hitting buffets, doesn't he, or something? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, because Coach Munkin's like, I'm like, you gonna have him by the start of the season? He's like, I don't know. I can't answer that question right now.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that he'll. I mean, Army tackles back in before Coach Munkin arrived were playing at 245.
That's true.
Which is crazy. Which is crazy that they're not doing that in 2024 college football, right? But I mean, we'll see. I'm sure he'll get in the mix. I'm sure, and he captain last year, right? He was your captain for your senior year. He, got. There were some tough times last year, right? You guys were there. There was a struggle last year, and you guys ended up finishing strong and winning the CIC. So you have him and Cody leading the team, along with Bryson Daly and Kyle Lewis and Max DiDomenico. I mean, that should be. We'll see. We'll see how that. I'm sure the leadership's going to be there. Now we'll see what they do on the field. But I mean, man, Cole, I can't appreciate enough the time that you took tonight. On a whim, I'm like, wait, I saw your Instagram yesterday. I'm like, you know what? I want to do a podcast on tonight. Let me see if Cole will do it. And I'm like, and right away, Sunday before noon, I think I contacted you. You were ready to go tonight. And man, thanks for all the stories and everything. Really appreciate it. And I hope I gave kickers some love. I hope Black Knight Nation's always here for the kickers and punters and the union. And Scott Flanick, we've had on our podcast, Nick Streg and now Cole Talley.
Yeah.
It's been a blast. And
Quinn's next, Mr. Moretsky.
Yeah, we got to get Quinn. Maybe Mr. Moretsky will come on. So
yeah.
We'll see. We'll maybe do the season preview or something like that. But you're welcome back anytime and really appreciate your time, guys. Check out, like I said, Black Knight Nation website. We're going to have some more stories on preseason camp. Our YouTube channel, we're inching toward 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're under 100 now. So we're going to, hopefully we can get there by the beginning of the season or early in the season. And check us out. We got some exciting news about sponsor coming on too down the road. And Black Knight Nation is going to be here. We're going to be at the season opener against Lehigh. We're going to Florida Atlantic for the first AAC game. We're going to send Seth Mendelson, our beat writer, there. We're going to Temple on that Thursday night game. We're going to cover a lot of Army football this year, and maybe we'll even have Cole Talley back too. So thanks a lot, Cole. Really appreciate it. And guys, have a good night.
Thanks, Sal.